Hey church, it's Wednesday and that means it's time for our 5-minute follow-up. But instead of a 5-minute follow-up, I wanted to give sort of a short, fresh message this week for you in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic and for Easter coming up. You know, it's a tough time, and I know if you're like me, you are grieving the chance to be able to gather together, physically present with your church family as we celebrate the single most important Sunday of the year, and that is Resurrection Sunday. It hurts to know that we can't be together, but you know what? God is working in spite of this. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to grieve. We can be sad that we're not together, but we can know for sure with confidence that God is alive and at work in this moment, and we don't have to be downcast or dismayed. I think of what Jesus was doing this day in Holy Week, and he had every reason to be sad. He had every reason to be downcast, anxious, worried. He knew what was coming, but that's not where we find him. What we find him doing is in Matthew chapter 26, starting in verse 6, it says, "Now when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment. She poured it on his head as he reclined at the table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, 'Why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor.' But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, 'Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her.'" So what was Jesus doing this day, aside from filling the disciples in on what they're missing out like usual, right? Jesus was resting. He was taking time for soul care. And yes, that perfume could have been sold. It could have been given to the poor. It could have gone to a different use that may have even had some impact for the kingdom. But Jesus knew the importance, even on this day and even for himself, of caring well for his soul. And so my encouragement to you in the middle of this week leading up to Easter is to take time for you, for your soul, to spend time with your Maker, and to rest. And I know that seems frivolous. I know that seems a waste, kind of like what these disciples were talking about with the perfume, because of how much work there is to do in this particular week, because of maybe an increased amount of sitting around already you're doing if you're not working, or if your work situation has changed and you're working from home and your rhythms are just out of whack. And so it seems like maybe a bad time to take a rest. But I encourage you to do just that. I found this week especially that I need this message and I need to take a rest. And so I'm not sharing this as a, hey, I'm better, I know what's going on. I'm doing it because I felt this need myself. We need to rest in Jesus this week. Would you do that? Would you make that a habit for you and a practice right now today? Spend some time, carve it out of your schedule, and take a rest. I'm so excited for what the rest of the week has to hold and to see what God is going to do with it through you, through those around you, and through the church as a whole as we celebrate Easter together this week in the midst of a very unusual time. Until next time, be a witness.